Sada Abe was the seventh of 8 children of Shigeyoshi and Katsu Abe, an upper-middle-class family of tatami mat makers in Tokyo's Kandon neighborhood. Sada Abe was born in 1905. Her mother doted on her youngest child and let her do as she wished. Abe's mother encouraged her to take lessons in singing and in playing the shamisen, both activities which, at the time, were more closely associated with geisha. Geishas were considered glamorous celebrities in 1905. They were a form of grace and very attractive. Sada was attracted to this type of life and soon started skipping school and wearing makeup. Her only interest at the time was her training. As her life became more involved in this lifestyle, she soon started taking outings on her own. In one of these outings, at age 15, she was arred by one of her acquaintances. This made her spiral even more out of control and difficult for her parents to handle. They soon sold her to a geisha house in 1922. Toku Abe, Sada's oldest sister, testified that Sada was sold as punishment for her promiscuity. Soon after being sold to the geisha house, Sada began to work as a prostitute. It is said that she was a troublemaker for attempting to leave the brothel. She eventually escaped the brothel and soon began working as a waitress. As much as she wanted to escape the high-risk life of prostitution, she eventually became bored with the low salary and mundane life as a waitress. She began to start working as a prostitute again, only this time, she was not tied to a brothel and was not licensed. While working unlicensed, she was arrested in October 1934. Her arrest led her to become a mistress for the first time. Kinosuke Kasahara, a friend of the brothel owner, arranged for the women to be released. Upon the release he met Sada and was attracted to her. As his mistress, he arranged for her to have a home and provided her with money as she wanted. In his testimony he reported, "She was really strong, a real powerful one. Even though I am pretty jaded, she was enough to astound me. She wasn't satisfied unless we did it 2, 3, or 4 times a night. To her, it was unacceptable unless I had my hand on her private parts, all night long. At first it was great, but after a couple of weeks I got a little exhausted." Despite the housing, money, and things she wanted him to leave his wife and he refused. She did then wanted to take on an extra lover, in which he refused. So then their relationship ended. Unsatisfied by her demands, Sada went on to move to Nagoya. Here she attempted again the simple life, and took on a job as a maid in a restaurant. She would go on to meet Goro Omiya, the owner of the restaurant. The stay did not last long, and once again bored by the mundane life, she moved back to Tokyo. Once in a while Omiya would go to Tokyo to help Sada, and encouraged her to become an apprentice for restaurants. She would soon get a job as an apprentice at the Yoshidaya, where she would meet Kikitsu Ishida. Ishida was known as a womanizer who did little in the way of running the restaurant, which was managed mostly by his wife. Soon after her start at the restaurant, Sada and Yoshidaya began to have an affair. Once the affair began, they had an insatiable lust for each other that lasted days, from one geisha house to another. Once the lovemaking bout ended, Ishida returned to his wife and the restaurant. Sada became depressed and jealous, and agitated. She began drinking excessively. She claimed that with Ishida she knew love for the first time in her life. On May 9, 1936, she attended a play, in which a geisha attacks her lover with a large knife. After seeing this, Sada decided to threaten Ishida with a knife at their next meeting. On May 11, 1936, she pawned some of her clothing, and used the money to buy some sushi and a kitchen knife. Sada later described meeting Ishida that night. "I pulled the kitchen knife out of my bag and threatened him, as had been done in the play I had seen, saying, 'Kichi, you wear the kimono just to please one of your favorite customers. You bastard, I'll blank you for that.' Ishida was startled and drew away a little, but he seemed delighted with it all." It is now 2 a.m. on the morning of May 18, 1936, as Ishida was asleep. Sada wrapped her sash twice around his neck and strangled him to death. She later told police, "After I had blanked Ishida, I felt totally at ease, as though a heavy burden had been lifted from my shoulders, and I felt a sense of clarity." She then lied with Ishida's body for a few hours and then proceeded next to sever his genitalia with a kitchen knife, wrapped them in a magazine cover, and kept them until her arrest 3 days later. In blood, she wrote "Sada Kichi Futari Kiri, Sada Kichi" together on Ishida's left thigh and on a bed sheet. She then carved Sada, the character for her name, into his left arm. She proceeded with putting on Ishida's underwear, telling the staff not to disturb Ishida. Sada met Goro Omiya soon after. Omiya was not aware that Sada had just committed the murder. Sada kept apologizing, and he assumed it was for taking on another lover. Sada was now on the run after committing this gruesome murder. She spent 3 days writing letters to family and friends. She still had the part and proceeded to do unspeakable things with it. She was apprehended 3 days after the murder. When questioned by the police why she had severed Ishida's genitalia, Sada replied, "Because I couldn't take his head or body with me. I wanted to take the part of him that brought back to me the most vivid memories." On November 25, 1936, was the first day of trial of Sada Abe. Many of her family and lovers testified. She was convicted of murder in the second degree and mutilation of a corpse. She requested the death penalty, however she was only awarded just 6 years on December 21, 1936. Sada Abe's sentence was then commuted on November 10, 1940. She had only served 5 years. This case was nationalized due to the gruesome nature of the act, and attracted movie deals and books. She tried to live her life by working in restaurants and as a maid. It is said that she once again became another man's mistress, until his family found out who she was. After years of living in semi-anonymity and working in pubs and restaurants, Sada finally managed to drop out of sight. She was last seen in 1970. Nothing else is known about her life. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Please leave a comment of any stories you would like to hear about.